There is a moment in professional wrestling, and it does not come often, where the arena goes completely, disturbingly quiet. Not the loud, electric quiet of anticipation before a big entrance. No. This is the suffocating, breathless kind of silence that grips an entire building when something has just happened that nobody can explain. When the dust has settled and the evidence is right there in front of you, but your brain refuses to process it, refuses to connect the dots, because connecting those dots would mean accepting something almost too cruel to believe. That is exactly what happened on Monday Night Raw. And if you missed it, if you were somehow away from your screen at that exact moment, consider yourself both unlucky and lucky at the same time. Unlucky because you missed one of the most visceral, jaw-dropping moments of the entire year. Lucky because at least you weren't there in real time, feeling your heart drop through the floor the way thousands of fans in that arena did. Because what Finn Bálor did to Liv Morgan on Raw this week? It wasn't just a betrayal. It wasn't just a turn. It was a statement. Cold, calculated, and delivered with the kind of surgical precision that only someone who has been planning this for a very, very long time is capable of. But here's the thing. Here is the part that has been lighting up every wrestling forum, every social media timeline, every group chat from New York to London to Tokyo. Liv Morgan had something to say about it, and what she said changed everything. Welcome to Wrestling Impact. Strap in, because this one is going to hit different. Let's start at the very beginning, because context here is everything. You cannot understand the full weight of what went down Monday night without understanding the road that led to this moment, and that road, as it turns out, is longer and more twisted than most people realize. Liv Morgan and Finn Bálor had not always been natural allies. There was a time not so long ago when these two occupied completely different corners of the WWE universe. Liv was running wild, unshackled, the most dangerous version of herself she had ever been. She was operating with a kind of chaotic confidence that made her unpredictable, the sort of performer who didn't just compete, she disrupted. Every room she walked into, every segment she touched, she left her fingerprints on in a way that was impossible to ignore. And Finn Bálor, the Judgment Day architect, the man who quite literally built the faction that would go on to define an era of Raw, had his own trajectory. A man always calculating, always positioning. A man whose smile in professional wrestling has historically been the single most reliable indicator that something is about to go very, very wrong for someone. When their orbits began to intersect in the weeks building to this moment, there were fans who embraced it. There were fans who saw in this partnership something compelling, something that made Raw feel electric again. A connection forged in convenience, maybe, but isn't that how the most fascinating alliances in wrestling always begin? Not with grand declarations of loyalty, but with two people who each want something, and who realize that for the moment, they want the same thing. Liv wanted momentum. She wanted power. She wanted the kind of backing that would make the rest of the locker room think twice before crossing her. Bálor wanted something too. But nobody, not the analysts, not the veterans in the back, not even the most cynical fan watching at home, nobody fully understood what that something was. Until Monday night. The segment started innocuously enough. Liv was cutting the kind of promo that has become her trademark over the past year: sharp, a little dangerous around the edges, the verbal equivalent of a lit match held over a fuel tank. She was talking about her future, about the targets on her back, about how anyone who thought she was vulnerable was about to learn a very painful lesson. The crowd was engaged. There's a particular energy in the arena on nights when Liv Morgan is holding a microphone, when she's in that headspace, and you could feel it permeating every corner of that building. The chants were building. The atmosphere was sparking. And then Finn Bálor's music hit. Now, in and of itself, that wasn't alarming. They had been aligned. They had been seen together. The assumption, the natural, logical assumption, was that this was reinforcement. That this was backup. That the Irishman was walking down that aisle to stand beside her, to present a united front to whoever might be watching from the back. But watch Finn Bálor's eyes when he walks down that ramp. Watch them closely. Because his eyes told the truth before his hands did. There was no warmth there. There was no solidarity. There was something else entirely: the cold, focused intensity of a man who has already made the decision, who has already rehearsed the moment in his mind 100 times, and who is now simply executing. Liv smiled when he appeared, and that smile, that trusting, unguarded, completely genuine smile, is the image that's going to haunt Raw fans for weeks, because it was the smile of someone who didn't see it coming, someone who believed, truly believed, that she had something real here. Finn walked right up to her. Close. The kind of proximity that in wrestling tells you one of two things: you're either about to see an embrace, or you're about to see a war. There was no embrace. In one devastating motion, economical, almost elegant in its brutality, Finn Bálor dropped Liv Morgan. Not in a fit of rage. Not with any visible emotion at all. He laid her out with the kind of clinical efficiency that said this wasn't passion. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment decision. This was planned. This was intentional. This was Finn Bálor telling the entire world exactly who he is and exactly what he's after. The arena lost its mind. Not in celebration, this was the other kind. The gasping, disbelieving, people grabbing the person next to them kind of chaos. A fan in attendance later posted online that the woman sitting next to her literally stood up and said out loud, no way," as if saying it forcefully enough would rewind what she'd just seen. It wouldn't. It couldn't. It happened. Finn Bálor stood over Liv Morgan's fallen body, looked directly into the camera and said nothing. He didn't need to. In professional wrestling, the most powerful statements are sometimes the ones made in silence. Now, let's talk about what came next. Because this is where the story pivots. The assumption after a betrayal like that, especially in the era of social media, where wrestlers have the ability to speak directly to their audience without any intermediary, is that the wounded party either goes quiet or goes scorched earth. You either retreat or you retaliate, at least verbally, at least publicly, at least enough to let people know you're still standing. Liv Morgan did neither of those things. And in doing so, she revealed something about herself that I think a lot of people weren't prepared to see. Because what Liv Morgan said and how she said it suggested that this betrayal, as devastating as it looked in the moment, didn't break her. It armed her. She spoke about Balor's actions without the trembling voice of someone who feels victimized. She spoke about it the way a chess player speaks about a move that has clarified the board. She acknowledged the betrayal directly. She didn't minimize it, didn't frame it as some misunderstanding, didn't offer excuses for him. She called it what it was. And then she said something that stopped people cold. She said she wasn't surprised. Let that sit for a second. In the aftermath of being publicly blindsided by someone she trusted, with the whole wrestling world watching and waiting for her reaction, Liv Morgan looked into the camera and told everyone she wasn't surprised. Think about what that means. Think about the layers underneath that statement. Is she protecting her pride? Is she performing strength because showing vulnerability isn't an option? Or, and this is the reading that a lot of fans are landing on, the one that keeps circling back into every conversation, is she genuinely telling the truth? Did she see something in Finn Bálor that nobody else saw? Was there a tell? A moment, maybe weeks ago, that she filed away and said to herself, if this goes wrong, it's going to go wrong exactly like this? And if that's the case, if Liv Morgan had intel the rest of us didn't, then the question becomes, what did she know? And more importantly, what does she know now? Because there's a version of this story where Liv Morgan is the victim. There's absolutely a version where she's the wrong party who now has to rebuild, has to find new allies, has to navigate a raw landscape that just got significantly more hostile. But there's another version. A version where Liv Morgan has been playing a longer game than anyone realized. A version where the betrayal, as real as it was, doesn't mark the end of her power, it marks the beginning of a war. And Liv Morgan in full war mode? That is must-see television. That is the kind of character run that can redefine a career. Now let's talk about Finn Bálor's side of this equation, because understanding the betrayer is just as important as understanding the betrayed. Finn Bálor is one of the most fascinating case studies in WWE's modern history. Here is a man who was the inaugural Universal Champion, a man who created Judgment Day, built it from the ground up, populated it with some of the most magnetic personalities in the company, gave it an aesthetic, gave it a philosophy, and then watched it transform into something that eventually moved beyond him. He was displaced from his own creation, cast aside by people he elevated. If you want to understand what drives Finn Bálor in this current chapter of his career, that's where you start. That's the wound that never fully healed. And here's the thing about Finn, he's never been louder than his actions. He doesn't do long, verbose explanations. He doesn't hold press conferences or deliver lengthy justifications. He acts, and then he waits for you to catch up. The betrayal of Liv Morgan wasn't random. There is a strategic logic to it, even if that logic isn't fully visible yet. Every move Finn Bálor makes is connected to something. Every chess piece he touches has a purpose. The question the WWE Universe is now furiously trying to answer is, what board is he playing on? Is this about dominance? Is this about the championship picture? Is this about sending a message to someone specific, someone watching from the locker room who understands the significance of this move even if casual fans don't yet? Or is this personal in a way that goes deeper than any of us realize? Because with Finn Bálor, it is sometimes personal in ways that take months to fully unpack. Whatever the answer, and we will get that answer. Because WWE narrative threads like this always resolve themselves eventually, the interim period is going to be extraordinary to watch. Finn operating with this kind of freed, unencumbered energy? Finn with nothing to explain and nobody to answer to? Dangerous. Genuinely dangerous. Let's step back for a moment and take the wider view, because this moment doesn't exist in a vacuum. It ripples outward. It touches the entire Raw roster. Think about the women's division. Think about the landscape Liv Morgan now has to navigate. The women who are already eyeing her as competition, they're watching this closely. A weakened Liv Morgan is a target. But a Liv Morgan who has been betrayed, who is operating with that particular kind of cold-blooded focus that betrayal tends to ignite. She's not a target. She's a threat. There are veterans in that locker room who have seen this cycle play out before. They know that the wrestler who gets knocked down in the most public, humiliating way possible and then rises with that scar tissue energy, that person is frequently the most dangerous person in the building. Because they have nothing left to lose and everything to prove. And on the men's side, on Balor's side, there are those watching and recalibrating. Because if he's willing to do that to Liv Morgan, the question every potential ally has to ask themselves is, what does willing to do to me? Trust becomes a commodity in very short supply in the aftermath of a moment like Monday night. The political temperature of Raw's locker room just changed dramatically. This is what a great betrayal does. It doesn't just affect the two people involved. It sends shockwaves through the entire ecosystem. It makes everyone else look at their own alliances with new eyes, ask new questions, wonder what they might be missing. Monday Night Raw just got a lot more complicated, and a lot more compelling. Here at Wrestling Impact, we've been watching this slow build for a while now, and what strikes me most about this betrayal is the timing. Because betrayals in wrestling, the ones that land, the ones that resonate, the ones people are still talking about years later, are almost never impulsive. They are always timed. Someone chose this moment. Someone looked at the board and said, now. Not last month. Not next month. Now. And the timing here tells a story. Because Liv Morgan was building towards something. She had momentum. She was on the ascent. A betrayal at the peak of someone's momentum doesn't just knock them down, it creates a vacuum. And in professional wrestling, vacuums don't stay empty for long. Watch who steps into that vacuum. Watch who benefits from Liv Morgan's disruption. Watch who, in 2 or 3 weeks, we look back at and say, oh, they knew this was coming. They were already positioned to take advantage. Because Finn Bálor didn't do this in isolation. Men like Finn Bálor never do. There is a wider plan here. And every time we get a new piece of it, the picture is going to become simultaneously clearer and more disturbing. That's what makes this such great storytelling. That's what makes Monday Night Raw must-watch television right now. They have built a mystery inside a betrayal, inside a rivalry, and the answers are being dispensed slowly enough that every week feels like an event, feels like something you cannot miss. Let me tell you what I believe happens next. This is not a spoiler. This is not insider information. This is story reading. This is the logic of professional wrestling narrative, applied to everything we just watched unfold. Liv Morgan does not simply retreat. That is not who she is at this point in her career. The character she has become, the uncompromising, unbothered, fiercely self-possessed version of Liv Morgan, doesn't crawl into a corner and lick her wounds quietly. She reconstitutes. She reorganizes. She comes back at Finn Bálor from an angle he hasn't prepared for. And when she does, when she looks at him and says everything she needs to say without needing to say any of it with words, that is going to be one of those moments. One of those wrestling moments you remember. One of those moments that becomes a gif, a highlight, a thing people point to when they explain why they watch this show. Finn Bálor, for his part, will continue operating with that eerie calm. He won't be looking over his shoulder, at least not visibly. That's his whole thing, the unshakable confidence of a man who believes he is always 5 steps ahead. What will be fascinating to watch is the moment, if it comes, when he realizes that maybe Liv Morgan is 6 steps ahead. That maybe the woman he underestimated because he thought the betrayal would dismantle her is the one person on Raw who has his number. That moment, the crack in Balor's composure, is the payoff. And every great story in wrestling is a journey toward the payoff. We are on that journey right now. And it is extraordinary. Monday Night Raw this week delivered exactly what great professional wrestling is supposed to deliver: story, consequence, stakes. The feeling that what happens in that ring and on those microphones actually means something. The feeling that people can be hurt, people can be surprised, people can be changed by what happens under those lights. Finn Bálor changed the landscape Monday night. Liv Morgan absorbed the change, looked it dead in the eye, and told the world she wasn't surprised, which may be the single most powerful, unsettling, and exciting thing she could possibly have said. This story is far from over. In many ways, it feels like it's only just beginning. And here at Wrestling Impact, we're going to be with you every step of the way, breaking down every layer, every nuance, every moment that matters. If you're watching this and you want to stay ahead of everything happening in WWE right now, the betrayals, the alliances, the jaw-dropping moments that nobody sees coming. You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because this channel is where the story gets told right, gets told deep, and gets told with everything it deserves. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What was your reaction watching Monday night? Did Liv's response surprise you? Do you think Finn Bálor is working alone, or is this connected to something bigger? The conversation is happening right now and I want to hear where you land on all of it. And if this video gave you something, if it made you think, made you feel the weight of what happened Monday night all over again, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel more than you know, and it tells us you want more of this stuff. This is Wrestling Impact. We'll see you in the next one.